Hello, my name is Reade DeCurtins, and I'm the co-founder of Bluebird Self Storage. I've been in the self-storage industry for about 25 years. Started out in the United States, working out of North Carolina, and for the past 5 years, I've lived in Calgary, Alberta. As a group, we think we've developed more self-storage than anyone else in the industry. So we've been very prolific with real estate acquisition and ground-up development.
There's many other investment vehicles that you could put your money into. What do you like about self-storage?
What I like about self-storage as an investment, especially in Canada, is that it's kind of untapped, undiscovered, if you will. We feel like self-storage in the U.S. changed pretty dramatically during the recession. And that's the point in time where institutional groups became a lot more interested in self-storage. With that came a lot more consolidation, a lot more sophistication. But with that attention to the industry, that spurred quite a bit of growth. We found in Canada they were about 10 years behind from our perspective with development. So it was basically an untapped opportunity to do in Canada what we've already seen happen in the United States. So we basically took the greatest hits, if you will, all the lessons learned in development in the United States, and we applied those in Canada. So it's been a lot of fun.
So you mentioned lessons learned. What lessons have you learned about self-storage, and what are some of the pearls of wisdom that you can share?
Some of the lessons that I've learned in self-storage really have to do with setting ourselves apart. This industry as a whole, from my perspective, and my perspective is that of a right-brained person. I'm more of a creative type than I am a business type. And what I see is low-hanging fruit. The industry is very dry. And I say that from the perspective of branding, the way that you relate to the customers, the way that the buildings that we build appear, the way that our retail spaces are a little bit more like the retail space that someone might experience when they go to a mall versus your typical boring self-storage facility. This industry has evolved in a lot of ways, but from an economic sophistication perspective, from a management perspective, but I feel like a category that's been lagging is just the retail development. The retail spaces, what you offer to the customers, the way that you present these items that you want to sell to your customers, it has a long way to go.
So you mentioned Canada and the U.S. What are some of the differences, or the pros and cons of operating from Canada versus the U.S.?
The differences between the stores that we build in Canada and in the U.S. Let me start that one again. I think some of the primary differences that we've experienced in developing self-storage in the U.S. versus in Canada is that there's a different entitlement process in Canada. It'll oftentimes take a lot longer to get your sites entitled. There's lots of fees that we don't necessarily experience in the U.S. So the barriers to entry are a little bit higher. However, on the flip side, the payoff's much greater because I feel like those barriers to entry have probably dissuaded quite a bit of our American competition from crossing the border. So that's a good thing, of course. But in Canada, it's a little bit more challenging to get your stores out of the ground. But once you do, of course, we've got much less competition in Canada. So we all know that in the top 25 markets in the U.S., you've got approximately 9 square feet per person at this point, probably around 7 square feet of self-storage per person across the country. In Canada, we've got about 3 square feet per person. And if you take a closer look, it's not just the disparity in the number of stores per person, but there's also a huge disparity in the sophistication of the stores. So we've seen in the U.S. this evolution of Class A development that hasn't quite taken hold in Canada yet. What's very exciting to us is we feel like with the Bluebird brand, from our architectural design, to our exciting, fun branding to our retail spaces, we've now exceeded what we see competition doing south of the border. So that gives us just a wide berth of separation in Canada. So what's exciting for us now is to take what we've done in Canada and we've garnered such success from, and then reapply that back south of the border with Sunbird. So, my perspective is that the industry, from a branding and design perspective, it's been low-hanging fruit. It's really exciting. We are constantly trying to innovate, and we're constantly looking outside of the industry. We're looking at retailers, for instance, places that you're going to shop at the mall for ways to display our products, for ways to design our showrooms, even down to the way that our managers interact with people. So, we want to be a little more hip, a little more positive. Think about your experience when you walk into an Apple store, for instance, versus walking into an old mom and pop self-storage facility, or even one of the larger REIT facilities in the U.S. It's exciting again because there's just such an opportunity to differentiate ourselves in this industry. So that's really what we're all about: differentiation.